I felt like I was presented with the choice. I can regress by going somewhere to someone else's house, or I can face my fears, work this out on my own, and make progress. Welcome back, guys, to the Butterfly Season podcast. Today, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing Butterfly Season merch, high vibes only, crew neck. These dropped not too long ago, but I love them because they're like extra baggy, extra long, oversized fit. They're literally, I live in them, literally. This is the ash gray. If you're on YouTube, that's what I'm wearing. If you're watching, that's what I'm wearing. But we also have like a forest green with mint green writing, dark charcoal with like a light charcoal writing, the Nipsey blue with like white writing. So yeah, if you haven't got your Butterfly Season merch yet, now is your time to grab some. If you use the word podcast when you check out, you get 10% off. So do that, get some merch, wear it, tag me. I love to repost everyone wearing the merch. It's literally the funnest thing. So shameless plug on Butterfly Season merch, but grab yours. And now for why we're here. I wanted to do a follow-up on my episode about why I started microdosing. And I have a feeling this is going to be a 3-part because it's really like anchoring things that have happened in my life that around microdosing that I want to like help drive the point home of like what that looked like for me to help paint a better picture. I know I did the episode on why I started microdosing and it was like a post and ghost. I just started talking about all of these other things. So as things begin to transform, I will continue to upload more content around it. But one of the things, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on YouTube, I do have like a series, a playlist where you can listen to all like things microdose stuff. So if you're just interested in solely that's a place where you can go and listen to everything. Anyway, following up on episode why I started microdosing. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it. It's important. The context of that episode is super important for this one. And in that episode, at a high level, at a glance, I talked about, I started microdosing because I had unhealed trauma and a lot of like loops and patterns that were toxic, feels like a stronger word, but they just weren't conducive for me. They were coping mechanisms, but they were keeping me like, I don't know, in fear and scared still. And so I had a home invasion robbery. And immediately after that happened to my mom and I started to develop OCD-like tendencies, which usually comes from severe trauma. I also had shortly after that, or maybe the year after or so, we had another robbery in our car that my mom and I, or my mom drove. It wasn't my car. It was, I guess, her car or whatever. And then in law school, I was T-boned, blindsided, spun out, totaled my car, ran into a tree. God bless, we only had minor scratches and injuries. My friend ended up having a fractured jaw. Like it was scary, chaotic, crazy. And then in law school, the following year, I was in an elevator that fell 22 flights of stairs down. We were stuck. I fractured my ankle, like just crazy events. Like, what are those movies called? It's the movie where like just crazy things happen and people die. Anyways, whatever. I'm glad I don't remember the name, but if you've seen all of those movies, it's like a bunch of them, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I get triggered around random trauma. I get triggered around being blindsided. And that trigger, the loop is when I'm blindsided, my mind tells me that I have to think of all of the crazy things of ways that I can die to protect myself so that I can forecast them and they not happen to me. But that ends up putting me down a spiral of feeling like I'm going to die, literally. And before microdosing, that feeling was like a late onset type of feeling. Like it wouldn't immediately happen, but I would feel so anxious and I would feel so scared and nervous, and I couldn't figure out why until it got bottled up until I was I couldn't move. That's how scared I was. I wouldn't take action. That's how scared I was. Like one of the last times it happened, it was right before a friend's bachelorette and we were going to Tulum, and I was looking for every single reason why I shouldn't go and lose all of the money that I paid for this trip because I was feeling scared to go because I had just been triggered by a random incident and I knew that in Tulum I was going to die. So that's kind of the loop, just to give you some context. Now, recently, And ironically, on the anniversary of the home invasion robbery that happened when I was in high school, this past year in February, I was at an event with my husband. It was my friend Kelly's launch party, a relaunch party. And after the party, we went out that night. We were drinking. We went out to dinner with friends. And then we came home late, went to bed, and I woke up to hearing my Ring notifications like going off, like our alarm going off. And I woke up so quickly that I thought it was a dream. And I sat up in the bed and I looked at my cat, and my cat was also looking at the bedroom door as if my cat heard something too, which is also, as I'm saying this, brought up a memory of before during the home invasion when they were breaking into our home. I could hear the glass window breaking and my bed started to shake. And so I thought it was an earthquake, but my bed was shaking because my cat was shaking or leaving the bed. And I remember looking at my cat like, oh, he's scared. It must be in an earthquake, until I realized what was actually happening. So both of those two incidences, simultaneously, same pattern of events that get me heightened and scared. I'm looking at my animal to determine, is this a dream? Is this really happening? Are they experiencing it too? And so I grabbed my phone to look at the Ring camera, and sure enough, there's a man outside of our house trying to break in. Now, looking at the guy, he was definitely on drugs and out of it. I don't know what his intentions were, but it didn't seem like somebody who was trying to break in and rob. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But they weren't coherent. And so I'm shaking my husband and I'm like, oh my God, look. And he was like, when did that happen? Because, when you're looking at the Ring camera, you're usually looking at something that has happened a little while ago. And I'm like, right now, this is live. They're outside right now. And anyway, we handled that night. And I felt like I was fine that night. I felt like I was fine the next day. And remember, you guys, I started microdosing because of this fear around all of this. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm good. Maybe I've worked through it all. And yeah. And so then I think maybe a month or so later was the first time that I would have been home by myself after that incident. And I couldn't figure out a week leading up. I remember talking to my husband. He was going to be gone for a week, which is not out of the ordinary. I've prior to that guy trying to break in recently, I can be home by myself. It's no problem. I don't have any issues around that anymore. And so my husband was leaving and I couldn't figure out why I felt so anxious as he was leaving. That Monday before he was leaving on that Friday, I literally started crying on the couch as we were talking, and I was thinking about him leaving, and I told him I just I want you to go, because he was going on a business trip and I know it'll be good for you, but I don't want you to go. And I was crying, and he was like, it's gonna be okay. But I couldn't figure out why I had so much emotion around this. Anyways, fast forward to Friday, me dropping him off at the airport. Literally the moment he got out of the car, I'm sobbing in the car, and I was even why am I this isn't our dynamic. Why am I crying in the car, dropping him off at the airport? And then it dawned on me, I no longer feel safe. And being with my husband, it was almost like a safety blanket to, he's here, so I'm fine. And then without him here, I'm no longer fine. So it didn't really allow me to address being so scared when that happened. And so I text my therapist and I'm like, I'm scared. I'm sobbing. This and that, and this is what's going on. And Cam is leaving and I don't know how to handle it. And I had the wherewithal to know that I was presented with two options. One option was stay at someone else's house, and I had so many friends offer that. But I think what people might not understand about this fear is that I can be anywhere and I would still be scared. I can be at a friend's house and I would still be scared. The fear doesn't go away by being at someone's house. And I almost felt okay, I know I'm safe in my home. I almost wanted someone at my house, but then I felt like I was presented with the choice. I can regress by going somewhere to someone else's house. I can regress by having someone come over and stay with me for the week, or I can face my fears, work through it. And if things get crazy, if I'm so scared that I need to go somewhere that it's debilitating, I can go somewhere and leave. But I can also have an opportunity to work this out on my own with my own like healthy coping skills that I've been learning and make progress. That was a hard one to do because the easier thing felt like going somewhere, having someone come over, like that felt easy. And the easier thing to do also felt like, I don't know, having a drink and maybe getting a little bit buzzed so that I'm forced to fall asleep. Or another thing that felt really easy to do was like eat a bunch so I can create it, like the feeling of itis and then go to sleep. Another thing that felt great to do was like, oh, I can just smoke and go to sleep, or eat a gummy and go to sleep. And like that also felt like a choice of regression versus progression. And I felt like I needed to sit with this and feel every single feeling like unfiltered to make a decision. And I say that, and I say those like different type of coping mechanisms because those are some of the things that we use for comfort. Like I noticed that when I'm highly emotional, I'll look to food for comfort. When I'm highly emotional, I can look to alcohol for comfort. I can look to any sort of substance for comfort, just like many of us do. I can look to friends for comfort. And those are actually not opportunities to allow you to progress. And so I was with a friend before I dropped Cam off. I had a workout already planned with a friend, and then I was going to go home and be by myself. And I was telling her and like crying in the car, like, this is how I'm feeling. And like, I know it's not rational. I know that I'm safe. I know I'll be safe at home, but I just feel like so terrified. And I was explaining like the loop, right? All of these crazy accidents that have happened to me over time. And she goes, what's so crazy is like, as you're explaining to me all of these incidences, all of these occurrences, like I thought to myself, wow, like you are so divinely protected. Like nothing can happen to you. Like nothing can happen to you if it tried. And for a second, I was just like, oh, I am. I had never thought about it like that. Like I am so covered. God has me so covered. I literally never thought about it like that. And it's like, I'm so covered. And there's evidence by that because I've experienced all of these near-death experiences and I'm safe and I'm sound and they've been life-changing, but I'm still here. And so I bring all of this up and I bring this story up because even though, yes, I started microdosing around this like really severe trauma and so many other things have come, beautiful things and hard things and emotional things have come as a byproduct of it. But my initial intention was around this fear. And, it still comes up. I had a friend ask me the other day about my journey and they're like, okay, well, if you deal with the thing, does it never come up again? You never feel like X, Y, and Z. And I was like, things can, and they do come up, but I think it's now that you're armed with this type of information, you're not using that same pattern of events to problem solve it. You're not, I did feel like something was going to happen to me and like I was going to die, but I felt that way every day, like for that week. By the third day, I was like, okay, this is good. I'm feeling good. Like I can say home alone now. Like before, this week I didn't feel like I could. I was able to before. And now I feel like, I've gotten over this and I truly feel like collapsing the time, having the acceptance that I do have all of this irrational fear, the acceptance that I am scared by these things, the acceptance that it's okay to feel this, but also like, let's work through it. That I feel like is the progress of, my journey, at least with microdosing. And so that's why I wanted to share this with you, because on this podcast, I talk largely about perspective shifts, addressing deep unhealed traumas. And just like this life lesson for me was something that had just recently came up, it's still the work that I'm doing. And I wanted to highlight that and share that with you guys. And then ask you guys to think, what types of perspective shifts can you have around your life, around traumas that you've had, little t traumas, big T traumas? What is the perspective shift that you can assign to this situation that can be liberating instead of debilitating? The perspective for me was that crazy things happen to me and I need to think of all of the ways that I'm going to die to protect myself and drive myself crazy because I'm so terrified because now I've just unlocked 50,000 new fears. Or I'm so divinely protected, literally so divinely protected, like nothing can happen to me. That's a liberating thought and a liberating feeling. And I have evidence of that. So something to think about, vulnerable share today. I hope you guys enjoyed this and see you next time.